Okay, let's jump right into the challenge. You're going to set up a React app from scratch once again. What you're going to render is the root app component, as mentioned here. And that app component should render 3 separate components, each of which will have some kind of elements that they render. First, a navbar component. Second, a main content component. And third, a footer component. So give this your very best shot. Remember, you can always turn to Google for help. Once you think you have this challenge done, move on with the video, and we're going to do this together. Okay, let's get started. We're going to import React from React and React DOM. We're going to use React DOM's render method to render a component called app. We're going to select the root element. Now app doesn't exist, so we need to import it. And that file doesn't exist, so we need to create it. Capital A app.js. And remember, I like to treat this file as kind of a table of contents. So I'll need to import React from React again. At this point, I like to just put something on the page to make sure that I'm on the right track. Okay, at least that's showing up, so now I know I haven't made a mistake up to this point. Now, if you look back in the challenge, it said to create a navbar, main content, and footer components. We could do this in any order. We could first create the files and then import them. We could import them and create instances here and then create the files. Whichever way you want to do and makes most sense to you is totally fine. I'm going to finish my app component first and then go create the components necessary for that to continue working. And remember, everything needs to be surrounded in a single component because any given component can only return one element. Here I'll put my header. Main content. And my footer. App.js needs to know about those first, so I will import those. And those files don't exist yet, so I'm going to create them. You can imagine as I keep creating new components that this is going to get pretty cluttered. So I'm actually going to put everything into a components folder. And drag my footer, header, and main content into my components folder. I also need to fix my app.js references here. Okay, over in those files, I'm going to start creating those components. And this will just have a basic footer element. For now, I'm just going to fill it with some text because it's not too important what's there. If creating these components is still a little bit foreign to you and you have to remember what step comes next, I'd recommend actually retyping everything from scratch. Because I've done this enough times, I'm actually just going to copy everything and paste it into header, changing some of the references. And do the same thing for main content. Notice that this just says main instead of main content, and that it's got a lowercase m. Hopefully you understand at this point that this is because this is a regular, you could say, HTML element. Main, header, and footer are all semantic HTML5 elements. Main content, however, is something that I created. And so I couldn't say something like main content because that's not a real HTML element. Let me refresh the page and see if it's working. Okay, it's pretty boring, and it looks like I forgot to put, this is the main section. All right. In the next couple videos, we're going to learn about actually styling this because this is pretty awful, and we want this to start looking good. Once again, feel free to pause the screencast and play with the code that we have here. Or if any of this was still confusing, go back to the beginning and try it again from scratch. Once you feel comfortable, let's move on.